Eating seasonally is the Italian way, and now that winter's over, I'm really excited about what spring has to offer, like pasta with peas and prosciutto. Welcome to Actually Italian. I'm Sal, and I've been living in Italy for years. Now I'm really excited to teach you some authentic recipes so you can cook the way an actual Italian would. Every season has its bounty of fresh produce. After a winter of eating heavier foods like squash and leeks and root vegetables, it's time for a change. That's why spring is such an exciting time, because we're starting to get some asparagus, we're getting these fresh peas, things like that are nice and fresh and bright in flavor. This is a really nice dish. It's light, it's creamy, and it's quick to make, so let's get started. Here I've got a bowl of fresh peas that I've mostly shelled already. You can use frozen peas, it's not a problem. It's just that the fresh peas have a sweetness that the frozen peas don't. So I got these at the local market this morning, and they're nice and fresh and nice and sweet. I like shelling the peas anyway, it's very relaxing. Not this one though, this one isn't very relaxed, doesn't really want to open it up. If you do use fresh peas, don't throw the shells away, because we're going to put these in the freezer, and next time I'm making a risotto, I'll use these for some stock. Any cured pork product is going to work great with the sweetness of the peas. That salty and sweet really works well together. Peas and pancetta is a very popular one, in fact. I'm using prosciutto in this one, and I want it to be uncooked when I make it, because otherwise it just tastes salty. You miss out on the nuttiness and other flavors of the prosciutto. You can really use any pasta shape that you want, but the pasta shape is important. I want to use these shells because the peas are small and they'll kind of fit right inside these shells, so that way I get the perfect pea to pasta ratio as I'm eating it. We're going to start with a cold pan with some extra virgin olive oil and a whole clove of garlic. We could slice the garlic, but since there are so many delicate elements in this dish, if we used a lot of garlic, it would completely overwhelm it. By just putting a whole clove in there, we can have kind of a background note of garlic to give it some extra flavor without it overpowering. Once it's sizzling away and starts getting some color, we can remove that clove and then start adding the other parts of the dish. We'll add some diced onion and a little bit of salt, very little, just enough to get the liquids coming out of the onion. But we need to be very careful with the salt at this point, because where we're going to be using the pasta cooking water and there are other salty elements in the dish, it could get very salty very easily. Once the onions have a little bit of color, it's time to add the peas. The timing of this is going to depend on whether you're using fresh or frozen peas. With fresh peas, they take a little bit longer to cook. So if you're trying to time your pasta with the sauce being done, then just kind of keep that in mind. With frozen peas, this stage is only going to take like 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. At this point, we'll get the pasta started. In a pot, I've got about half of the amount of water that I would normally use to boil pasta, and also half of the amount of salt. The reason I'm using a little bit less water is I want to concentrate that water with starch, so when I use that for the sauce, it's going to give it a nice creaminess and a nice texture. In fact, now that the pasta is almost cooked, you can see the difference in the water. It's a little bit more opaque, and those bubbles are glistening a little bit. Those are indications that this has a lot of starch in it now. When the pasta is about a minute away from being cooked al dente, we want to start adding that cooking water into the pan. So I'll take a couple ladles worth of that water and put it right in the pan and let the peas finish cooking in that. We'll let it cook for a couple of minutes, so that way the water can kind of evaporate, the starches can thicken it up. It looks like a lot of liquid right now and that it's going to be soupy, but trust me, it's not. It's going to all come together. At this point, we'll add the pasta right to the pan with the peas. We'll give it a nice toss. We'll get everything mixed, and we'll let the pasta finish cooking in that sauce. This will also help thicken up that sauce, because the pasta is going to absorb a little bit of that liquid, plus the starch is kind of working, it's all going to kind of come together. Now the pasta's cooked, it's ready to go, so we're going to shut the heat off. I'm going to add the prosciutto. We want the heat off because we don't really want to cook the prosciutto, because it's just going to get very salty. We'll give it a nice toss. Now I'll add the cheese. Again, the heat needs to be off for this. If you add the cheese to the pan while the heat is on, it's going to separate and get greasy. In this case, I'm using Parmesan cheese. You could use pecorino if you want, just mind the salt, it is very salty. We'll give everything a nice toss, and that cheese is going to help create that creaminess in the sauce. Now this just looks like the best that spring has to offer. We've got the sweet peas, the sweet onions, the salty prosciutto, and then the creaminess from the cooking water. I only used about half of the prosciutto that I had sliced up because I'm going to basically garnish with that uncooked prosciutto, so we get those two contrasting flavors, kind of that saltiness of the cooked prosciutto, and then we're going to get that nice fresh kind of uncooked, a little bit more delicate prosciutto flavor at the end. All I need to do now is give it a little bit of cheese, and we're ready to taste it. I think what I really love about this dish is how equally balanced everything is. I didn't use cream in this, and that's a big reason why I didn't use it. When you use heavy cream or whipping cream or creme fraiche, you're not going to get that delicate flavor of the peas to come through. So this way you taste everything. You taste the sweetness of the peas, that delicate, fresh, bright flavor, and all of the flavors come through. The saltiness of the prosciutto really balances everything out. If it's springtime and you can get a hold of some fresh peas, this should be one of the first things that you think about. I hope you make this dish, and if you do make it, let me know what you think in the comments below. Well, for now I'm going to get back to my lunch, and I'll see you in the next video.